Welcome back to the Women's Basketball Summit, the online platform for players, coaches, and parents. Today is one of my favorite guests. I love talking basketball with this guy. I love talking about resistance bands. So Dave Schmitz, welcome to the call.
Hey, thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me back. Looks like the thing
you know what? You are probably one of the speakers. I can always look at how many views these interviews get, and you are always one of the top speakers. So I wanted to have you back because anyone that knows me and follows me knows that your bands are always a staple in my program with my athletes. So super excited. But for everyone that's listening that has not had a chance to get to know you and your stuff, let's tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, my background is a physical therapist. That's kind of how I got things started, and started utilizing bands in a rehab situation, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Progressed from physical therapy into more of a performance and fitness-based area and career because I was very interested in that, but mostly because I was driven by the fact that I was tired of waiting for people to get hurt to come see me. I wanted to see them and see if we could avoid them getting hurt. And truly that's what drove me to where I am today. And so I still work on that a lot. And, you know, that's kind of how things got rolling for me. I was an athletic trainer for a while as well. And obviously I have all the background in fitness, strength and conditioning, those types of things, because that was just a personal passion of mine from day one. Way back when I was in grade school, I was working out by myself. So it was kind of crazy. But I was just talking to somebody recently and I said, you know, if you look in your background, you're going to find your passion. And if I look back in my background, it was obviously where my passion was. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, I think everyone is. That's the same with me. I was like a commercial gym trainer in the last 3 years. Kind of my passion has been, you know, basketball and then working with female athletes. And one of the reasons I love chatting with you is you know basketball well. You have a daughter that plays basketball in college, but also you've trained a ton of basketball players and female athletes. So kind of tell everyone what teams you've worked with. And I know, you again, ton of work with the resistance band with the athletes, but just touch on that.
Yeah. So about 8 years ago, I took over being a volunteer strength coach for our local high school. And with that, my children were coming into the high school. So that was one of my driven passions, was to make sure they had a good environment to train. And so interesting enough, when I came into that, I immediately gravitated towards getting female athletes into the weight room and training. At the time, there was zero. I mean, absolutely zero athletes in the weight room. And so I started working with as many female athlete populations and sports as possible. And everything spun forward 8 years. Now we have it's become a female-only training system or a training program where now we're training about 35. I got about 35 to 40 female athletes right now training with me at the high school. It's summer here right now, so they're not even in school session yet, and we're training 3 times a week, about an hour and a half a day. So it's just transcended into training athletes. But obviously my biggest focus was basketball, partly because of my daughter, but more because basketball from a female perspective has become truly a physical sport. And with that, I felt like if we could get our girls stronger, they would be ahead of the curve, because in high school sports right now, strength training for girls is still not even close to where it needs to be. Not at our high school. Our girls are like really, really into weight training and strength training, and our teams show it. I mean, we've got some pretty strong girls, and it shows on the court. And so it started with a volunteer, molded into female athletes, and now I still work with all athletes, but I have a real soft heart for the female athlete, because I just think that they have the biggest upswing if they just start getting in the weight room, and our girls have recognized that and see the benefit of it.
100% agree with you. So you have great success, obviously, having your females train. Mm-hmm. What do you kind of like put your success to get them in the weight room? Because like I obviously work with female athletes, and I have a bunch of teams that I have a relationship with, but getting their whole, you know, AAU team to buy in, it's a tough process. So like, what do you attribute to getting the girls to come into the weight room?
Well, let's put it this way first. There's different environments that you have to work with. I'm in a high school environment. The girls are there and the coaches are there. And so that's the environment I'm in. So with that, the thing that drove the success of the program was two things. Number one, getting the coaches to be present, because that intrigued the athletes to be present. Number two, build on success. If you have to build on success, if you expect the girls to come in and be form lifters and know exactly everything about weight training and just be able to throw them into an experience in the weight room without kind of holding their hand a little bit, it's not going to work. So when the girls would come into the weight room with the guys, I made it a very, very apparent that I was there and I was there for them. And if they had any questions, they needed to ask. And then when they ask, you have to answer. You have to answer. If you don't answer, then everything gets thrown out the door. So as soon as the girls recognized that I was there for them and that this was a room they could have success in, that sent the program immediately into success. And then the last thing you need is, like, if anything at all, you need your superstars to step up for you. And I had, fortunately I had Kenzie to help me a little bit, get other girls in the weight room. But now I've got 3 or 4 girls like Kenzie that spearhead the weight room, and they get their friends in, and their friends come in because they trust their friends. And so it's really not anything different, Jen. Build a relationship with the girls and they'll start doing it, and then use them to refer into more. That's the success I've had in the high school environment. All right. I can't tell you from an outside in a public, or excuse me, a private gym situation, the success I've had there is less numbers, but same way. Girls come into the gym. You probably don't know this now, but I actually am a co-owner of a gym. And so the girls can come into the gym, train, and when they come into the gym, I kind of make sure they know I'm there, and we really make sure they know exactly how to function in a weight room environment successfully. But once they learn how to function, once they know what to do and they've got that confidence, then you can let them go. And that's the way our high school is now. The girls come in, really it doesn't take a whole lot of coaching anymore on my part. They know how we run things. They're in there. All I have to do is motivate them to go after something maybe they didn't think was attainable.
Nice. That's some great advice. So obviously you use resistance bands. I mean, I've learned all my resistance bands from you. So what's your program you use with these female athletes? Obviously resistance bands, but what other lifts are you doing with them?
We do all the primary lifts. I mean, right now my girls basketball team is on a kind of a strength building phase. We're trying to start bringing them in. They're finishing up their base training for 3 weeks, and now they're into their strength training phase. So what I do is we do the general lifts. We push press, we bench, we squat. We're experimenting right now with a little more front squat versus back squat, and then we deadlift. And I know a lot of basketball players and coaches don't like to deadlift their athletes, but I deadlift because to me it's the number one way I can get after that posterior chain really successfully for girls. I've tried a lot of different ways, and deadlifting is easily the most successful one. So we do the 4 primary lifts, but here's the secret sauce. Every time the girls come in, I've created a digital or a Excel program where they come in and we create a number for them. So they have a number. It's a 1 RM, maximum, but they don't ever 1 RM. We do 6s, we do 8s. We then convert it to a 1 RM, and that number is what I base their workouts on. So what I do now is when they come into a workout, if we're going to do a bench squat workout in the weight room for primary lifting, they have a target number to go after. And Jen, I'm telling you, give girls a goal and they will absolutely attack it. And I did this 3 years ago, and it was hands down the biggest strength gains we've ever had in the history of the school. And now we do it all the time, and the girls are constantly asking for it. So that's the lifts I do. That's the secret that I get to getting them to make sure they're always going after a goal. And then how we use bands in that program is the bands are the auxiliary lifts. So if they're push pressing that day, I may have them do a pillar push press after that with bands. A pillar push press puts them in a prone position, up on their hands. They've got to be pressing with one hand while they're stabilizing with the other in a plank or pillar position. That's an example of an auxiliary lift I would put with push presses. Band pull-aparts, another auxiliary lift. If we're trying to work on more acceleration and speed with with their movements, I'll do jack presses, or we'll do squat jumps with bands, things like that. For the most part, to summarize, I use bands as auxiliary training and acceleration or power training. That's where I bring the bands in, because girls aren't going to throw weight, but they'll accelerate a band really well.
Yeah, no, I love your acceleration, kind of your locomotion stuff that you use with the resistance bands. I find it is a beautiful way to teach the girls to accelerate, but then obviously we'll teach them deceleration. So that's what I always use with my basketball players. And I always tell people, like, it would be hard to hurt yourself using resistance bands. Like, I feel like you'd really have to do something silly when you're trying to teach acceleration and walking in. Touch on, like, again, you're the expert with the bands, why you think bands are safe for female athletes, basketball players that have never lifted in their life to use.
Well, because number one, they don't have to worry about creating power out of the hole. And what I mean by that is the resistance they have at the beginning of the movement is going to be less than what they have at the end of the movement. So for them to initiate the movement is going to be easier. If you watch girls, and I've done this a lot in the last 8 years, girls get into the hole. And what I mean by that is they get into their squat depth, they get into their bench press depth, they get to their push press depth, and they kind of quit on it. And they don't want to push out of the hole. And they just kind of quit early. That they have a mindset that they don't think they can do it. So with bands being easier in the hole, they are willing to push it out. But interesting, once they get halfway, they're then willing, no matter what it takes, to lock it out because they love to finish. But sometimes they struggle out of the hole. So bands teach them to come out of the hole and lock out and finish. That's why it's great for girls, because it fits their mindset. That's what I believe. The other reason it's safe is because what I've seen is the female athlete, and even the female adult in the fitness environment, they're a little bit intimidated by weights for different reasons and very logical reasons. So you have to get them over that, and bands allow them to kind of get over that fear. The last thing about bands, that as long as you put a person in a band that they can handle, there's going to be success 99% of the time, because they know they can handle the band. And so now all you have to do is get them to go after it a little more aggressively. Well, if they know they can handle it and they know they're going to have success, you're going to go for it because you know you're going to be successful. So that's the 3 reasons I think bands are great for the female athlete. Again, because it kind of fits their personality and gets them going with weights.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I also think they're fun. I mean, to kind of shuffle in a band, do crazy stuff with partners. I mean, I use it with my female athletes when I train privately, and then at the private school that I work at, the kids are always asking to do the bands. They love it. So going back to what you said earlier, you said basketball is, a very physical game. I 100% agree with you. I mean, I played Division I, almost 15 years ago, and the game's more physical now. And also you are a physical therapist. Talk about why it's important for females to strength train, and then kind of touch on, kind of the ACL epidemic, kind of crazy now, why strength training could help prevent non-contact ACLs.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's any secret why strength is going to help prevent ACLs. But here's 2 things to keep in mind. The game, this is my opinion. The referees and the coaches have taken the gloves off when it comes to physicality in a girls' basketball game, especially at the college level, really significant at the college level. But at the high school level, I see a lot more physical games where the referees are just going to let them play. So you can't go into that game anymore necessarily and just win because you shoot the ball well or because you're relatively quick, because a physical girl can come in and shut you down. And so what we tried, I just think that if girls right now are not strength training, they are not going to come close to being able to maximize their potential. And I'll share this with you, Jen. The young gal I work with right now, her name is Natalie. She's a sophomore. She'll be a junior this year. Natalie's been with me since she was a freshman. She's started at 115 pounds. She's now 145. She's a point guard, 5'7". She just finished up her AAU season. And she is an extremely strong girl for her size and her weight. She was so physically dominating in AAU basketball compared to her teammates, they couldn't take her off the floor. Because as soon as she came off the floor, the opposing point guards would dominate the much, much weaker point guard. And this is in AAU. And the coach said, there's just no way. So here's a girl at 115. If she would have never strength trained, she would maybe be 125 pounds. She would not have competed at the AAU level this year because she just simply wouldn't have been physical enough. But because she is, she's on the floor 100% of the time. And it's really, I mean, I wish I could kind of give you a before and after of this girl, but that's an example of she is a Division I athlete right now because of her physical strength. She's a Division III athlete if she never weight trained. That's pretty significant. And so that's why they've got to start strength training. The reason behind the ACLs, I don't think it's so much the strength training. I honestly think it's band training. They need to strength train to build absolute strength, but then they've got to use bands to work on timing, because an ACL is prevented because of timing of muscles contracting and integrating at the very right moment. And strength, if all we needed was strength to prevent ACLs, then why do we work on first step speed and all these agility things and all this other stuff? It's because it's the timing of the muscles integrating at the exactly right time that prevents the ACL. And that's pretty easy to substantiate because strong girls get ACLs too, and weaker girls get them. So it's a timing thing. So that's, to me, I don't want people to think, well, if we just strength train with weights, we'll prevent ACLs. No, that's only a portion of it. You've got to work on timing, and that's where band-resisted strength training is going to be the changer, I think.
Yeah, well said. I 100% agree with you about strength training and the physicality. I mean, look, I played D1. The difference when you're kind of going from high school and you're that good to play Division I isn't your skill. It's the speed, it's the strength, it's just the physicality. I know your daughter was a freshman last year. She's going into her sophomore season. As a parent, what did you see? I mean, obviously, when you say it's a physical game, you're seeing it firsthand, but kind of your observations from a parent's eyes for like the first year your daughter played.
Kenzie went in to play, and she was the strongest girl on the team. And I say that not for bragging purposes, because the next point I'm going to make is the parent point. She was the strongest on the team. I was hoping she would be, because I knew she had to build success on something, because I knew when she got there it was going to be a completely more competitive world and not necessarily a friendly world, because all the girls want to play. And so when she got there, as a parent, I wanted her to have success somewhere, and I told her, use your strengths and build off of those. And so as a parent, it was pretty hard, because she was stronger, but she struggled trying to pick up the speed of the game and all the little things that come with the pressures of the game. And so as a parent, I was, number one, impressed by how the growth that Kenzie has had over the last year. It's amazing. And I think all girls go, it's amazing how much they change in a year, simply from a personality standpoint and ability to handle conflict and handle people not necessarily liking you. But you know what? That's life. And so I think from a parent standpoint, it's hard to watch your daughter or son go through those tough times. But man, it is so gratifying to see them now go, oh my goodness, you are light years ahead in life because of it. And that's pretty exciting to see. And so it makes you feel better as a parent, because ultimately they got to handle life themselves. We can't always be there. So I guess that's a little philosophical parent stuff, but that's kind of how it went. And this year going in, I don't know how she's going to do or how it's all going to go, but I know this: she's only going to get stronger as a person as she goes along, which is pretty cool to see. And I know that's kind of a old theory of everything about life and that, but it truly is. It truly does happen, and it's really rewarding as a parent to see that part of it come out of it. But it's hard to watch them go through it.
It's great that you said that, because I think sometimes parents think, their daughters, dominate in high school and they go to college and everything is going to be, perfect. And, I play D1, so I only speak really of D1. It's brutal. It's hell at some points. And I know, and, if my mother was on this call right now, I'd be calling home some days crying and say, like, I can't take it anymore. So it's good that you kind of said the same thing, that, it's hard and that you grow but definitely it's challenging. Did she have to stay this summer at school, or was she home with you guys conditioning?
Kenzie gets about 6 weeks with us throughout the entire year. She got a month off from middle of May till middle of June. She then went back and had a really rigorous summer schedule. That's the other thing too, Jen, is the schedule that these girls are put under, and what I shouldn't say girls, the athletes are put under, is, you talk about multitasking, they put it at the top of the schedule. Juggling classes, practice, being a recruit support for the coaches, interacting with their teammates on a regular basis. It's crazy what they go through. So yeah, all summer long, she had an 8-week camp up at school, and she trained 6 days a week pretty much, either in the weight room, shooting, coaching, everything that goes into playing basketball. So it was a pretty big, incredible schedule. But once again, seeing her handle the schedule this year versus last year, night and day. And she handled it well last year, but this year it's like, it's really not even phasing her. That's just part of the world right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it, because I think, parents and athletes that are listening can kind of get a little bit of a point of view from like what you see and how hard, a Division I schedule is and the commitment these athletes have to put in. So as we wrap up this call, is there anything else you want to talk about before we tell everyone where they can find you on social media and everything?
I just think, Jen, that as parents of these young athletes, and they come from so many different lifestyles and environments, that as a parent, the biggest thing I can tell you right now is, let them figure it out and let them vent and let them just be a really, really big support for them. Because if you've never been an athlete, or you've never gone through athletics and training and conditioning at any level, it's hard to believe how hard it is. And I'll give you just a quick sample of what Kenzie told me just yesterday. She was watching Tiger Woods at the PGA, and they were showing a picture of him putting, like about a 12-foot putt. And he had millions of cameras on him, looking right at him, getting ready to shoot as soon as he hit the ball. And she looked at that and she goes, do you realize the pressure that's under? And she goes, I think it's pressure being in a game shooting a free throw in a college game. And she goes, I can't imagine. I'm so impressed with how tough he is mentally. And so support your kids and let them become stronger mentally. And to me, that's the biggest thing. And I know this is a training summit and a training interview. Hopefully that helps parents really realize, just be patient with them. It's tough, and stay with them, because they're going to really get better with it.
Yeah, yes, we like to talk about training during the summit, but as you just said, with these female athletes, there's more to kind of what they experience and just what happens on the court physically. There's a lot, between here and becoming an adult. So no, I'm very happy that you said that. So if people want to find out more about what you're doing, your work with female athletes, where can they find you?
Well, first I'll go to resistancebandtraining.com. And connect in there. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff with the site in the next 3 months that's going to open up a really neat thing for our members or our people that come in to visit. We're going to actually kind of create a virtual gym for them actually on site, which is going to be pretty exciting. So get to resistancebandtraining.com and start getting comfortable with that. You can follow me on Instagram, Dave _RBT. I periodically will shoot videos from my athlete training as well as with me. So get that going. And then lastly, if they get on the site and they're interested in, okay, I'd like to get some bands for my high school athlete or my middle school athlete, you and I put together what we think is a good package for them. You're going to link it to this video so they'll be able to see it. But that package is what I use to train probably about 90% of our girls athletes. Those are the bands we use, and the good news is they'll get my basketball training quick guide with it, so they get really all the drills and the videos of the drills and exercises right away with it, which I think is a pretty cool little package, and they can really start working with it.
Yeah, so for everyone listening, and I'll also email it out in the emails that go out, we will put the link for the band package that Dave and I put together. And these are the bands that you guys see me in all the videos I do. These are the bands I use. He is the only person that I use his bands from, because we've tried to buy, in the past that were a little cheaper, and the bands stick. They do not come apart. I can know that from a personal experience. So Dave, as always, it's a pleasure. I love talking basketball with you. I love talking bands, and I hope to see you in the near future.
Same here, Jen. Thanks again for the opportunity. Have yourself a good day.